founder of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, MD.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, and fascinating health topics, and of course, where we encourage you to call in to join in. Friend of ours, I'll even use the word old friend of ours, been here a couple times before, brought a topic that at the time was never really discussed here before. Aging, how to do it gracefully. Anyway, we're back with Dr. Eric Shapira today. In his book, which we've mentioned to you before, I'll mention again, A New Wrinkle. There's a paraphrase to it, what I learned from older people who never acted their age. Dr. Eric Shapira is going to be with us today. We'll see how he can stir up the pot. He's done it before. And of course, if he stirs it up enough and he gets you motivated to want to find out more or just to weigh in, the number to do that, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Dr. Eric Shapira is our guest today. Now, calendar as it shapes up. Oh, in keeping, and interesting how the scheduling worked out. In keeping with our topic today, issues about caregiving will come up. Helping out in a case where maybe your parents just need a little help. Maybe that's all they need. You know what? Maybe it's not your parents. Maybe it's you that needs a little help. Anyway, on Friday, normally we don't have guests on Friday, but I thought to maintain some continuity, we're going to have Kathy Oberst here talking about a service available in the area, service where your insurances actually will pay for some help for you, for your child, for your family. It's called Home Instead. We're going to talk about that on Friday with Kathy Oberst. And as I've been mentioning, I thought, well, we should get Deborah Ray back because it's been a while since we had her back. And we've done so much with Through the Spirits. She's cut a lot of commercials that we play here. Well, she also has been busy enough to write a little book. It's a small book. It goes hand in hand, literally, with the integrity and the message of Fruit of the Spirit. The book is called Harmony. Spirit, body, and mind, achieving good health and learning the lesson of balance from science and faith. Anyway, Deborah Ray finally coming back. She's going to be here on the 17th talking about that new book. We just got a shipment of them, and we'll tell you how to get one of these copies whenever we hit the airways. Hope you enjoy having Deborah Ray back. Find out about that other book, too. You know, the one with all that stuff that Donald Thoreau accumulated all the years. She's got it all. And she said she's going to write a book about that. We'll ask some questions about that besides. So there you have it, folks. The calendar as I see it right now. Hope you enjoy the month as it unfolds for you. Now, I'm always looking at the Percola website, and every time he comes up with a topic that catches my eye, I think, you know what, I bet the listeners would enjoy this. Well, one that caught my eye as I was going through my emails is this one that was posted, 13 plants that could kill you. Now, that catches anybody's eye, and I said, well, let me just dial that up and see what he's talking about. He literally lists 13 plants that can actually kill you. So let's quickly go down through the list of 13. I'll get you started this morning. And if you got any of these plants or any of these fruits around, maybe you'll look at them a little differently. Or maybe have a little more abiding respect for them than you did prior. So here's our list of 13. We're not going to dilly-dally around here. Let's just move down. Some I've never heard before, but there are some that I certainly have. How about this first one? Apples. Turns out apple seeds contain cyanogenic glycosates. Cyanide is the better term. If you eat enough of the seeds, you could very well die. I had never heard anybody dying from overeating apples. Maybe they just don't overeat them, and certainly maybe they don't eat the core. But those seeds, if you have enough of them, he claims, you can wave bye-bye. How about this? Deadly nightshade. Nightshade family includes plants such as potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, chili peppers. While deadly nightshade is the most dangerous of all these plants, they contain toxins, usually in the foliage if the plant grows on. And thank God we don't normally eat that. Rosary pea. Never heard of this one. I got to tell you, maybe you have. Rosary peas are traditionally used as an ornamental bead. Many jewelers makers have died after handling rosary peas, which contain abrin, a fatal toxin. Okay, I've never heard of it, and probably will not be looking forward to ever coming across it. Here's one I've heard: oleander. Oleander is a common garden plant, but ingesting any part of it can be deadly. Even the smoke from a burning oleander can kill you. I have never heard of such a thing. Have you? And if not, want you to run the garden. European yew, Y-E-W. Nearly all parts of this tree are poisonous. The leaves and the seeds contain a poison called taxanes. Daffodils. Hey, I know about daffodils. So do you. I've always thought them to be so pleasing, so pleasant, and so, well, warm and alluring. Well, daffodils are deer and vermin resistant, and no wonder. They have a poisonous, numbing effect. It doesn't say you can die from it. They just say a poisonous, numbing effect. That's why, by the way, they're not eating daffodils around your house, because the deer already know it. Something called doll's eye. The fruit of a doll's eye plant contains cardiogenic toxins that can lead to cardiac arrest and death. This one I've heard of. There's a society all around the use of this particular plant called a hemlock. All parts of the plant contain the alkaloid choline, which causes stomach pains, vomiting, progressive paralysis of the central nervous system. Stinging tree. Don't know about this one. Maybe you do. The plant is the deadliest and most potent stinging nettle in the world. The nettles contain a potent toxin that has been known to kill humans. Castor beans. Yep, heard of it. Castor beans, one castor bean contains enough to kill an adult within a few minutes. Stay away from the castor beans. Angel's trumpet. All parts of these plants contain dangerous level of poisons. People sometimes die trying to create recreational drugs from the plant. Okay. Monkshood. Monkshood was used by ancient warriors to poison the water of their enemies. It's a killer. And white snake root. I haven't heard this one either. White snake root contains the toxin tremetol. A little bit of historical point here. Abraham Lincoln's mother reportedly died after swallowing snake root contaminated milk. And there you have it, the Wrinkle top 13 list of plants that could kill you. Hey, it's just for your personal interest. Hope you enjoyed it. When I find things like this, I just bring them to you. All right, let's do this. Let's take a short break, and in the interim, I'm going to call up our good friend, Dr. Eric Shapira. We're going to be talking about aging gracefully. I'm looking at the book for like the third or fourth time. I go, you know what? These are neat concepts I haven't brought to these listeners before. So let's do them today. And so that's what we are going to do when we return in just a minute with Eric Shapira. Be right back with you.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion. for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, M.D. is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Fruit of the Spirit. The blessings of Fruit of the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Fruit of the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to An Impact on Your Health, right here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you on this Wednesday version of the show. Going to be a scorcher out there today. 82, folks. Good for us. And it's going to heat up around here, too. Inside, we're with an old friend of ours. He brought us messages we had never heard of before concerning the process of aging, how to do it gracefully. This gentleman written a book. I thought the title real catchy, too. A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. His accomplishments and credentials are impeccable. Over 30 years as a dentist on the Half Moon Bay coastside. Master's degree in clinical gerontology from Notre Dame d'Amour University. Educator, has taught courses in healthy aging, successful aging, as well as geriatric aesthetic dentistry and special patient care. This list of accomplishments continue to go on and on and on. We really enjoyed first discussing an issue of aging with this gentleman, and a great resource he has become for us. Hopefully we'll try a couple of other things out of him today. Let's welcome him back to Pittsburgh, and let's say good morning to Dr. Eric Shapira. Thank you for allowing us to invade you at this hour of the morning.
Oh, Dr. Courtney, it's a pleasure to be with you this early.
Well, Eric, some time has passed, and I always have your book nearby. I'd leaf through it, I'd pass through it, and I've discovered some things that we didn't talk about before, so we'll get to them. I always like to reintroduce my guests. There's groups of listeners that come on board and maybe haven't heard of you before, and so I always like, even on return visits, to have the guest talk a little bit about himself. Dr. Shapira, tell us a bit about you and how you got involved with gerontology and how it led you to this crusade and led ultimately to writing a book which I, by the way, think is excellent, and hope our listeners take us up on the offer to get one.
Thank you, Dr. Courtney. Well, I practiced dentistry for over 30 years. I had a neck injury due to degenerative joint disease, which caused me to have a couple of neck surgeries and stopped practicing, unfortunately, because I loved what I did. I was teaching special patient care and dentistry on compromised patients for many, many, many years, and communication to health professionals for over 25 years. And I decided that I'd go back and get a degree in clinical gerontology, because every time I went to teach a course, they'd bring somebody in who had a higher degree than I did, even though I had a doctorate in dental surgery. And when I stopped practicing due to the neck surgery, the neck injury, I had that to fall back on. And then I thought I didn't know enough, so I went back and got another master's in health administration, so I would learn to navigate this very complicated health system that we have, which is changing radically as we speak. And that education helped me formulate a lot of different ways of working with families in crisis, which I developed kind of treatment regimens, if you will, to work with them, and they're quite unusual and they work very well. So that's basically the history of my gerontology career. I do counseling and assessments through my business, Aging Mentor Services, at agingmentorservices.com. And while I was healing from the second neck surgery, I sat down and wrote this book because something possessed me to do that. As every lecture I gave, whether it be at the university on healthy aging or death and dying or grieving or a dental lecture of some kind, everyone asked me if I had a book. And so I finally sat down, and this just came out. It was just an amazing thing. I wrote every day for 2 years, and this book was just right at my fingertips, if you will.
Well, it certainly is work. A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. Find these literally it's interesting, yes, but packed full of information that I think is applicable to the situations that many of our listeners find ourselves in, whether it's for themselves, for their parents, or if they're children, because you call them, the majority of people, the sandwich generation. I thought it was an interesting term. What's the sandwich generation again, Doctor?
Yes, the sandwich generation pertains to us boomers who are basically caught between our parents and our children. And I think more people these days find themselves in that situation dealing with their parents more than they're dealing with their children. The children who are fairly grown-up adults, and the parents who are reverting back to childhood, if you will. And I've got an 87-year young mother I'm dealing with now in the context of having her move from her home of 65 years, which is extremely difficult for her and for all of us. And I've got a 94-year young mother-in-law who is continuing to live life to the fullest. She just bought a 10-acre ranch, if you can believe it.
Dude ranch. She has a dude ranch.
Yeah, she's a dude, all right.
Oh, goodness. That's a list. Okay. Well, I think the word that you used was dealing with, and I think that's a very appropriate term to use, Dr.
Yes. Well, we're stepping cautiously as we move forward, and I always like the frog, Dennis, because the frog is an animal that never goes backwards. It always goes forward. So I like to be a frog as I age, and I encourage people to do that as well. And I had an 88-year young client who insisted that aging was not for sissies. So I tell people if they choose to be old, they should put a B in front of it and be bold and go forward with zest and gusto and challenge life and challenge themselves. I know it's not easy for any of us these days with the financial crisis and the things that all of us are doing to support our lives and to try to make ends meet. So I think it's important to challenge yourself and challenge life as you move forward through it.
Well, right off the bat in going through your book, because I often do, because it's just right alongside my desk and I pick it up occasionally and I'm thumbing through it. The first thing that now grabs me, because it didn't grab me before, is the fact that you got you either, my past uneducated self, you were either old or you were young. You were a senior, you were youth. And you go in your book and say, no, there are actually 6 different divisions of age, 6 categories of aging, all starting back between 0 to 29. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, that's the new aging paradigm.
The new aging paradigm, and I think it does set a mood in the town that really causes the eyebrow to raise, because you go, that is actually, I agree with that. So what does it tell us what that new aging paradigm is?
Well, it's interesting that even now that we have an HMO here, Kaiser Permanente. I don't know if it's...
Oh, we here on the East Coast hear about your West Coast.
And they're slamming the media with, 60 is the new 40, but that's not really the case. I think, people are looking at 50 as being old because they get an ARP card. And, our mindset is conditioned by the media, and unfortunately. And 0 to 29 is an emerging young adult, and our brains aren't even formed until we're about 29 years young, if you can believe that. And we're only using a very small portion of our brains. And we're not an adult until we're 40 years old.
29 to 40. Young adult, you say, is 29 to 40.
Right, and an adult is 40 to 55. Middle age is around 55 to 70, and it's actually on the rise.
Middle age is 55 to 70. Now, there you go, folks. You can butt into that one. That's a pleasant morsel to chew up a bit.
And a senior is 70 to 85. And elder, 85 and up, is actually the fastest growing cohort of our society. We have more people in that category than anyone else, but you can look at the statistics. Someone turns 50 every 7 seconds, and there are 1,000 people an hour turning 65. And so that group right there, the boomer group, is huge. It's the largest, most technologically, most wealthy cohort in our history. And it's right there in middle age right now. And so we've got a whole gang of people, about 25% of our population, approaching seniordom. They're kind of like, I call that a boomer triangle between 55 and 85, because you've got that span between middle age, senior, and elder. And that's when the real transitions happen to all of us.
It's a great new paradigm, and it just, I think, adds that new bit of... The boomers are... We're invading this advancing age category with a volume of individuals that we've never seen before in
it's huge.
In our existence. And the things are going to hit the fan unless some changes take place. And so every time I'm driving down the road, I look at what's getting built, and about 80%, with 80% accuracy, it's always a senior living facility, okay?
Yes.
And so they're creeping up everywhere, folks. You see them, I see them. And you may be driving in the San Francisco way, thinking about your parents, but it's not going to be too much longer before it's going to be you.
What's really fascinating is the onset of what we call tiered living. And it isn't just a senior living facility, it's independent living, where a person may go in there and buy their own apartment or condominium, and then they step down into the next tier as their physical health changes, if it changes at all. So you might step down into assisted living if you're not able to do all of the ADLs in your life, the activities of daily living, where you may not be able to comb your hair or take a shower by yourself because of, let's say, arthritis or something that happens to you that affects your manual skills. So you may have to step down into an assisted living where someone can help you. And then if you reach a point where your ADLs decline, your activities of daily living decline, you may have to go into a skilled nursing facility. You step down into that. And these places are being built by the droves now. We have Hyatt Regency, the hotel chain, has got a beautiful one in Palo Alto near Stanford University, right near a shopping center. It's a beautiful place. It's independent living. They have a lot of retired professors in there, and they bring in very high-powered people to lecture and so on and so forth. But these people have a wonderful life in a place where if they don't want to cook, they can go have a meal 3 times a day, and they've got somebody coming in to take care of their needs, the apartment, the maid service, and what have you. And then if they have to step down due to, if they become infirm to some extent, they can step down into another section of the facility. They leave their condominium, the unit is sold, and that money is applied to their assisted living and so on. So it's really kind of a new paradigm for living.
Sure is. I think we, on the East Coast, you ever hear something called the villages?
Yes, we have those here also.
Because that is like, we're all familiar with this in the East Coast. Because we're always hearing how the politicians going to swing through there, because it's like a town. It's huge.
Yeah, it's senior living. And in fact, my mother-in-law lived in a villages-type area where no one was allowed to buy a house unless they were 55 or older. And she did not like it. She did not see herself as being old, and she didn't want to be around people her age. Inside, she was 18 to 20, and that was her thinking.
Is that the one with the dude ranch?
That's the one with the dude. That's the dude with the dude ranch.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. As I plumbed through the book some more, plunged on through it, fixing to caught my eye, because we had never talked about. I always like lists. And you're good at this because you do paradigm for living and and the number of lists that emerge from your book are many. But this one, appearing early on in your book, talks about the 6 keys to living a long and healthy life, as you saw it. And then you even throw a potential 7th one in there, the lucky key. How about bringing us up to speed on that list? Because I think it's a great list for someone who's done the kind of study that you have to be able to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, I think for everyone to live a successful life of aging, there are some basic tenets that you need to follow in order to get yourself in gear for this. So 6 keys for living a long and healthy life. Start with, well, I'm not going to stay in the same order they are in the book. I'm going from rote memory, which is good for me, because that's one of the things that I talk about in that list is stimulating your mind.
Yeah, that's right out of the sheet. That's the number 1, you said.
Okay, it's number 1 is stimulating your mind, and I'm not talking about just doing puzzles and that type of thing. There's a new field called neurobics. I don't know if you've heard of it, Dennis. You may have.
Yeah, I have.
Neurobics is not just doing crossword puzzles and card games and so on and so forth. It's stimulating your memory banks along with your prefrontal cortex, where you're actually let's go back one step. The brain basically is a very nascent, a small, young child that likes to be stimulated. It's curious. And so if your dominant hand is your right hand, then I suggest people try to brush with their left hand. When I do that, sometimes the brush ends up in my nostril, which is not too much fun. But you want to do things with your less dominant hand. You want to be able to come into your house at night, keep the lights off, and feel your way around to the kitchen or the bedroom or the bathroom, because now you're not only thinking about where you're going, you're actually trying to remember where you're going, and you're stimulating a different part of your brain. So that's extremely important with neurobics. It's a mental exercise. Or you can close your eyes, line up a bunch of smelling type liniments or what have you, the cinnamon, eucalyptus, and so on, and try to have someone help you with this exercise and identify the smell, and then tell them what comes to mind when you first smell that. If you put a rose in front of somebody's nose, it may stimulate that first rose they got when they went to the prom, or that first rose they bought for Mom on Mother's Day when they were 5 or 10 years old. So you're not just stimulating your thinking part of your brain, you're stimulating your far memory, and this is extremely important. The next thing on the list would be staying social, which is incredibly important, and that means, going with the girls one day to play pan or mahjong, or the boys to play poker, or to go to a lecture. Be with other people and get out of your own microcosm, so that you're not alone all the time. It's really important to be social with other people and share information. And I've had people in my life, in my practice, in dentistry actually, that were cloistered. They didn't get out, and when they moved into an adult living situation, they forced themselves to make their teeth more aesthetic, if you can believe that, because they were in a social situation now, and they wanted to look their best and look young and fit in, if you will, with the norm. So that's another thing. Eating right. I think it's important to eat right. Watch your fat intake, your sugar intake, your carb intake, because we're in a society now that's overweight. I guess you would know more about this than I would as a physician. Over 30% of our kids are overweight, and we have a new term now for adults who may be overweight and getting diabetes type 2, and we call it diabesity. And I think there's an overindulgent amount of adults that are coming down with this malady, which is unfortunate. So watch your eating right. We're in a fast food, fast-paced society. People don't take time to eat right, and it's important to have equal amounts of vegetables and protein and so on, and we need to do that, and eat smaller amounts. If we have to eat more during the day, so be it. Getting enough rest. I encourage people to take a cat nap during the day or meditate for a few minutes and regenerate their thinking powers in their bodies. I think it's really important to experience intimacy of one sort or another, even if it's just holding hands with somebody. That our sense of touch is our most intimate form of communication. And I think, there was an old adage about hugging 10 people a day. Of course, you've got to ask permission sometimes if you don't know the person, right? Because you can get in trouble. But I think it's important to have intimacy, and I'm not just talking about sexual intercourse, and that's important too, if you're able to do that. But hugging and holding, and when you meet somebody, give them a hug and not just a handshake if that's possible. And a handshake is fine also. And staying ambulatory is really important. Moving your body and doing exercise. The Surgeon General has asked us to do 5 to 7 days of continuous exercise for at least 30 minutes. If you walk with somebody, which is a good exercise, if you're a little bit older and don't jog or do anything heavy duty, you should walk with a friend to a point where it's difficult to talk and you know that you're stimulating your cardiac output and getting your blood flowing through those chambers of the heart and making it work, because it's also a muscle and it needs to be exercised. So those are some really neat things, and one of the last things I talk about, I believe, is getting out of yourself, and that means
that's the surprise one you talk
about. That's the surprise key.
Yeah.
I actually work with a lot of people who are depressed, either because they're lonely or some other reason in their lives, and I ask them to get out of themselves, and that means we don't know what our gifts are until we give them away, and I encourage people to go volunteer, whether they're working or retired. I think it's a really good thing to go and give your gifts away. Go to the hospital and read to somebody you don't even know. There's a lot of vets coming back who are injured or maimed or have brain damage that need social contact. They need people to read to them. They need people to work with them. We have actually a Rotary Club here that sends people into the local VA, and they work with them on all levels, helping some of the guys that are brain damaged to read again and to learn again. And I think this is really, really important, just to get out of yourself, whether it's to be a mentor or a grandparent to a child that doesn't have a grandparent. These things are not just important for the person that you're working with, but they're so very, very important for your own sense of self and self-esteem as we age, to know that we're useful in life. And I think when people retire, they may lose that sense of being useful in our society. So I tell people to plan to work and work to plan. Whether you're still working after 65 or retired, it's really important to give away your gifts.
Yeah, you don't mean worldly gifts. You're talking about the
innate gifts.
The innate gifts, the things that you've acquired from interacting with the human race your entire life.
Yeah, show somebody how to draw, read to somebody, show somebody how to sculpt, show somebody how to fix a radio or a TV or build a kite or a model or sew. Or I've got a 96-year young client who used to make clothing for the movie stars from a distance. She lived in New Jersey and she made John Wayne's clothes in L.A. and for the movies and lots of movie stars' clothes, and she can sew up a storm. And now she makes these little sachets and these little pot holders and so on, and knits sweaters and scarves. And I said, why don't you show people how to do this? It's a wonderful skill. And I told her, she sits home all day alone. I said, go to the senior center and give a class. I mean, this is something that she can give away and help other people find their own sense of self through doing some of these things. That's why I encourage that.
Trying to figure out the advice for the mother-in-law with the dude ranch. We'll let it go for now, but geez.
The calf roping is a good one.
Calf roping. Why don't you go?
She wants to have horses, and she's now talking about having a gun because all of her neighbors have one. They've got coyotes.
Strapping on a sidearm. Yes, that's what
right.
you do in your 80s. All right. God bless her. God bless her. Now, I got to hand it to you as you get your book. I always go to a table of contents.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you doing that.
And I think the titles that you use and the way with words that you have, you get an image about a chapter that just using a one word or something like that would never conjure up the same imagery. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting. One of your chapters, and I'm interested to hear how my listeners would respond to hearing the title, which is called "When the Music Changes, So Does the Dance." Boy, if there ever was a group of words that conjures up an image about, with respect to aging, I certainly got my own images. What did you mean when you put that together? And give us some examples about the kind of music that's changing and the kind of dancing that we got to change and do.
Well, I started off that chapter with a quote from Robert Frost about the road not taken, and it's about making choices in our lives, and for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction, and we're at a point in our life where we're almost forced to make choices every day, and change is incumbent upon us every moment. Change is the only constant in life, and as we change, so does the dance. So the steps may change, the way we move may change, life changes for us at the drop of a hat, and so when our memories change or we change in a physical way, then our dance changes. So you may learn it in a certain way, but we're going to have to relearn it as we move along. And there are a group of people in our society who become depressed because of these changes, and some people who find they're losing their memories. I have a client who's 75, and I was called in to work with her because she started losing her memory, and her daughters asked me to work with her, and I had to unpeel an onion, if you will, because she had layers and layers and layers of trauma that she'd gone through for the last 10 years or so, and a lot of suffering due to a suicide of a daughter who was 42. Within 13 months, that daughter's husband died of a congenital heart problem that no one knew about, leaving 4 kids behind with no parents. She lost her husband, and she lost 2 partners in business, and then she recently, with this financial stress and change, lost her husband's business, which was the mainstay of her family because they worked in that business, and that was their only source of income. So she had a lot of change to deal with, but because she wasn't getting counseling for some of these traumas and all of this loss, the grieving process that occurred tripped over into a depression process. So there's a fine line between grieving and depression. You have to distinguish, how long it's okay to grieve. Some people grieve for years and can function normally, and then there are other people who may grieve and then get tripped up by a change in brain chemistry and become depressed. So there's a lot of suffering that goes on and a lot of changes that go on. And when we have loss, it's important to realize, or we have something that confronts us that causes a change in our life, like my losing my profession of dentistry and having to back up 5 and punt and readjust and be flexible with that change and come to a point of acceptance. It's important to realize that we don't have control over 10% of what happens to us, but we do have control over 90% of how we react to it. So it's our attitudes that play a very, very important part in this change process from the time we're a child to the time we leave this earth. And basically, I try to tell people to live in the moment and learn to forgive. I think that's a very important thing. Forgive ourselves for not meeting the expectations of others, and forgive others for putting expectations onto us that we can't meet, that create stress for us. And to live in the moment with this change and know that that's the only time we have. I have had lots of people who have encouraged me to continue my art through the years because it's my personal expression of my own thinking process, and my art changes along with the experiences that I have, because we're the sum total of all our experiences. And in that case, we go back to the title of that chapter where the music changes for me, the dance changes, and I tell people it's like communicating. Only 55% of what we say is in words. 42% of it is the meta messages, the tone of voice and our body language when we say the words. Only 3% of it is the message per se, and the words take on a different meaning depending upon the music. And it's the same thing with the dance of life. As we change what we do in life, we need to readjust our thinking, and we need to go with the flow. And that's why I wrote that chapter.
Great title. As all the titles of your chapters are. We're going to recommend that everybody get this book. Hey, let's do this. We're going to take a short break.
Okay.
When we come back, the first thing I want to get out of the way is how they can get the book. Okay. How then? And by the way, I know you have a consulting firm, so if somebody felt they needed some help, I want you to guide them in how they could get that help from you.
Okay.
Now we're going to talk about, and the reason I'm saying now, so I don't forget what we're going to talk about, and that's memory. Okay.
Make notes.
Make some notes and take it from here. So you are with Dr. Eric Shapira. The book, A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. And as you can see, the man has quite a message for us all to gain from. Be back in a moment with him. Be right back with you.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones a blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning. Welcome back to AM Impact on Your Health here on this Wednesday. Gorgeous day outside, and it has certainly bloomed and blossomed in here, hasn't it? The message, maybe one initially is scary to you, now starts to, so the petals start to open up and the flower really becomes revealed for what a beautiful experience aging can and should be. The message giver is a gentleman who obviously, you can tell by what advice he has to give you, knows an awful lot about the subject. His name is Dr. Eric Shapira. He's talking about his new book, A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. Dr. Shapira still with us? Are you not, Dr. Shapira?
I am here, Dr. Courtney, forever.
So that our listeners can get a hold of this book. I think this could be a manual. Everybody should have it. I keep grabbing it and leafing through it. How can they get the book? And also, how can they get you? Because I think they develop an attachment to the message giver, and in so doing, they might want to get some advice from you in particular.
Okay. Well, they can get me through going to agingmentorservices.com. It's all one word, agingmentorservices.com. That's my consulting business for aging in life. And I'm half old guy will travel, although I'm not old, but that's what I use as a moniker. And my brand is staying healthy and living an independent life. So that's one way to get me. The book can be gotten through Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. You can request it at any bookstore because it is in the Library of Congress. And my book site is newwrinklebook.com, and they can get it through that source, and I can autograph it for them from my website.
Absolutely wonderful. What I learned from older people who never acted their age, and a little addendum to that, And by the way, my mother-in-law has a dude ranch. I think you got to include that. I can't get that. Just will not leave me. That is gonna.
She's in the book. Well, that conjures up a great image, doesn't it? She's
oh,
94.
Yeah.
She still paints. She still gives me a hard time. So I will call her an atypical mother-in-law, but typical in the sense that I'm her son-in-law and she picks on me. And that's okay. I understand. I've been married to her daughter 31 years today, by the way, is my anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary, Doctor.
Thank you.
Please pass our best regards on to your wife.
Hard to believe. That we were talking about change last night and how fast time goes. I tell people that, aging is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. And that's so true.
Another title of a chapter, I could say it.
Absolutely, that's for the sequel.
Absolutely, a title that has a message behind it.
The back of the book is really interesting. I've got a glossary of terms. I had a woman call me from Wyoming saying, you use a lot of big words. I have to sleep with the dictionary. And I said, that must be very uncomfortable. And she said, no, I keep it on my nightstand, dummy. And I said, okay. But I said there's a glossary of terms in the back of the book, and you can just look up a word if it's there, a big word that you don't understand. There's a lot of words back there. I have a list of ancillary reading, and most importantly, I have a section of resources that took me a year to put together of very helpful resources of anything and everything, I hope, that has to do with aging. And I had a couple call me. They have an aunt who's 94. They pay $7,000 a month to keep her in assisted living. They support her, and they called hospice on her. And they said, "What do we do?" So I went to the back of the book to the National Hospice and Palliative Care Association, got them the numbers. They got a hospice in that area, put her in hospice. Medicare picked up the tab, and she lived another 7 months. And with that phone call, I saved them about $50,000, which is great. And then the book is fully indexed in the back, so if you want to look up a specific topic, you can look it up. So I wrote it as sort of a text, but it's an interesting read. It's got a lot of...
Everybody out there should get a copy. It's a manual that you can use now for your parents, and then your kids can pick up and then use on you,
or with you.
Or with you as you continue to age. This issue of aging, the context that I'm usually asked about by patients or the sons and daughters of people who are aging now, and memory issues would come up as being the signaling to everybody around them that, hey, mom or dad, not as sharp. I mean, if that's all the comment, not as sharp as I used to be, that may be one thing, but...
Well, that's a glittering generality. There are people who are in their 80s that are still developing business. I just read about a guy in the Wall Street Journal. He's 86. He just started his 9th business. He's sharp as a tack, and even sharper than he was when he was in his 20s because he has all that experience under his belt. He makes the business successful and invents certain things. He's an engineer, sells the business, and starts another one. And that is a beautiful example of healthy, successful aging. But you're right. Memory is one key to changes that happen to us as we may age. Some people I know, I have a friend who has got ADD, and he can't remember where he left his glasses, so he buys 20 or 30 pairs of these throwaway glasses. He's got them everywhere. And but I tell my students that our brains think 4 times faster than we can hear. So if they finish the lecture before I do, they're free to leave. Just think about that.
Yeah, I got
it. And they do. So we're always thinking ahead. If you have an ADD situation, you're scattered thinking, and you're thinking about 20 different things at one time, and you're probably thinking about what's the next question I'm going to ask this guy on the phone, and while I'm talking, and at the same time you're trying to listen. So our brains stretch both ways. We speak, we listen, we talk, and we don't listen. We think, and therefore we are, as Descartes said. So memory is a very, very big issue with people, and it's simple memory loss may be just mild cognitive impairment, which is now an official diagnosis of a beginning memory disease. It may not go any further, but it may also indicate that someone's evolving into a more serious form of memory loss. And memory loss can be caused by many, many different things, Dr. Courtney, as you know, including having general anesthesia. You may have a transient memory loss after general anesthesia. My dad did after a long heart surgery, and there were a lot of things he couldn't remember for a while, and they came back. But people who are into drinking the nightly martinis may find that their memory may be waning a bit. People who have vascular diseases may have some form of vascular dementia. There's Lewy body dementia. There's which has to do with specific entities in the brain. There's Alzheimer's, which is another form of dementia, which has a genetic component. And there are lots of memory things we can. There are lots of things we can do to improve our memory through exercise. Because I said the brain, as a child, it needs to be titillated through certain exercises and stimulating it in certain ways. And exercise is certainly, brain exercise is certainly a good way to do it. I practice with a little Nintendo DS game that's not an advertisement, but they make a little game and they have these little chips you put into it, and they make a game called Brain Age 1 and Brain Age 2. And there's a neuropsychiatrist who developed these games, and he actually talks to you. And if you don't pick up the game for a while, it's like, oh, Dr. Shapira, I haven't seen you for a while. Where have you been? You know, and they want you to do this in repetition. If you just sit down at a computer for 20 minutes, you'll increase your brain power a great deal. I think 2 hours at the computer increases your brain power 20%, which is really wonderful. And those people who dance, if you like to dance, Dennis, that's great. If you don't, you better learn, because if you dance 3 times a week for 30 minutes, research has shown that you stave off the rigors of Alzheimer's disease or dementia by almost 30%. Because, no, I'm kidding. That's because you have to remember the steps. You're working all parts of your brain. You're moving, you're exercising, you've got blood flowing, and again, as the music changes, so does the dance steps. So you're having to remember different dance steps, so you're stimulating your prefrontal cortex. A very important thing. If you sit in front of a TV and don't do anything and veg out watching TV, you're not stimulating anything. If they scanned your brain at that point, it would be just blank. But the minute you put a computer in front of somebody where they've got to do work, or they're doing a puzzle, or they're reading, or they're doing something constructive, that brain lights up like a rainbow, because the chemistry is changing and the chemicals are being moved through the synaptic junctions of your nerve cells. You know, your neurons are the longest living cells in the body, and they live with you through your whole life. And it's really important to recognize that and to stimulate those cells so that you stave off the rigors of memory disease if you can.
Positive message, very positive. I would also say, for those who are wrestling with the idea about mom and dad, and these memory issues are weighing in on them daily, anguishing about, should I, shouldn't I? There's an instrument I use in the office. I think that there are many instruments out there to help try to get some objective measurement of, okay, how profound is this? The one I use called an MMSE. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yep.
But easy enough. A 10 question.
That's the mini mental status exam.
Yeah, right. Takes 5 minutes, and you can get some objective measurement that actually has some validity to it, because you're wrestling with, should I, mom need to go into the home, okay, or have one of us in her home, or whatever, and that instrument could be helpful, at least getting that whole thing started. We'll let it go at that. We're moving that along. We're at a real good clip, and I wouldn't want to close without bringing with, and I'm offering up, if anybody has a question, 412-825-6262, because the phone rang off the hook last time at this point. What are the legal steps that one really needs to have a list of? What does the family have to prepare so that the legal documentation is set in stone, so that whatever happens, they're at least legally protected and financially absolved?
Well, there's a few. Everyone needs to have a will. I think that's really important, whether it be a holographic will that you write yourself, and you can go online and it'll tell you how to do it, or you can download forms where you can actually just fill out a will and have it notarized, or go to an attorney and have them write up a will. I think people need to look at trusts and putting your assets in trust. The government has various policies which are changing now, whereby if your assets aren't protected 5 years before someone might need to go into a chronic care facility or a skilled nursing facility, and they're on Medicaid or Medicare, they're going to ask for you to reimburse them. I just had a client who was on the hook for $86,000 for his dad because he was in the hospital, and the son signed the dad into the hospital and not the dad himself, and the Medicare benefits didn't kick in. And so I said, well, you better talk to an attorney, because the son almost keeled over when he found out that he had to pay.
Yeah, you brought that message to us last time.
That's right.
Be careful what you sign. You're thinking, oh, okay, I got to sign my dad in. Well, yeah, you do, but you take on the financial responsibility because you did the signing.
Well, he was a durable power of attorney anyway for his dad, so he was responsible. Being as the dad was somewhat at a loss due to memory loss and had some physical problems, so this legal thing kicked in, and the son was basically the person who was in control of everything, so he was responsible. We need a durable power of health care, which tells people who may be taking care of you at the time what to do in case you're unable to make decisions for yourself. Who's going to do that? Those are things to think about. I think it's important to consider writing a legacy, not just for yourself, but the people you leave behind, who are the ones that are left to grieve and to suffer your loss. And they need to know that they were appreciated in life, so either you sit down and record it, write it, or tape it, so they can look at you and you can say, how much you love them and how much you thank them for what they've done, or you want to read a poem that you wrote, or whatever, leaving a legacy. One of the hardest things I had to do in my studies was to write a one-page legacy about my life and what I thought I was leaving behind. It was extremely difficult exercise. I encourage all of you to do that and practice doing that. That's different from a will. And those are some of the basic tenets. I think if you can afford long-term care insurance, that's a plus. I know it's expensive, but if you look at it now, a lot of people are investing in annuities and insurance annuities, and using that annuity, the profits from the annuity, to pay for their long-term care insurance. So they're having an income, plus that income, when they get to a situation where they need to have a financial kick, that annuity will pay for their health care in the end, or their life care. And this is a new thing. And if you have the money to invest, great. A lot of us don't. I don't. And I'm helping my sister pay long-term care insurance for my mom, and because it's going to be an expensive ordeal. She has to go to skilled nursing. So those are things to think about, basic things.
All right. We are literally coming up at the end of our hour. I've enjoyed it so much, and I'm sure my listeners have too. With those bongs in the background, and given 20 seconds,
yes,
tell us the parting message. What do you got for message today?
Well, I want people to know a quote from Gandhi. It's your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. And so I want people not to get stuck in a negative thought process or become complacent about the way they are. I want people to stimulate their minds, live each day, live in the moment, and know that they have great potential to make a difference to themselves and to the world.
I'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Dr. Shapira. Folks, we're out of here.
You.
See you on Friday. Talking a little more about this on Friday. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Dr. Eric Shapira saying so long for an impact on your health.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
AN Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002. For Dennis J. Courtney.